My mother-in-law, Cora, looked my daughter, Maisie, straight in the eyes and handed her a sugar-free, gluten-free, joy-free cake made of sponge and fruit. She knew Maisie wanted a rainbow unicorn cake. She promised it. She lied. I'm Linnea, and for a whole year, my husband Thayer and I planned a simple but fun backyard birthday party for our girl. The centerpiece was supposed to be the beautiful cake Maisie and I had designed together, a bright, sparkly unicorn dream. Cora insisted on providing the cake as her special gift, and we trusted her. But when she arrived with that sad beige disc, she'd scared about poisonous dyes, and I watched Maisie's face fall apart. Her tears seemed to satisfy Cora, and that was the part that broke me. Thayer tried to stay calm, but I could see something shift inside him. For years, Cora had dressed her interference as wisdom. My meals were full of chemicals. My parties were too overstimulating. But ruining her own granddaughter's birthday, that crossed a line. It wasn't about health. It was about control. It was her way of saying, my choices matter more than your child's happiness. After the party started, Maisie clung to me, still wiping tears. Thayer quietly walked his mother to the driveway. I watched from the window as he pointed down the street, not asking her to leave, but telling her. When he came back, his hands were shaking. I'm done, he whispered. Later, taking out the trash, I saw a glossy bakery box tossed in the bin. Not the box the fruit sponge thing came in. This one was from Sweet Enchantment, the exact bakery I'd originally suggested. I pulled out the receipt inside. A custom rainbow unicorn cake, paid in cash that same morning. Cora had the real cake the whole time and chose to humiliate Maisie anyway. Thayer called his estranged brother, Dax. He answered on speaker and didn't sound surprised. Let me guess, she ruined something important so she could fix it later? He told us she'd done similar things to his daughter. She created pain so she could swoop in later as the hero. That's how she kept control. Thayer and I made a quiet plan. No yelling, no confrontation. We finished the party, made Maisie laugh with ice cream and games, and pretended the missing cake didn't matter. But we were done letting Cora dictate anything. And right on schedule, 4 hours later, she marched back into our house with a big, perfectly decorated rainbow unicorn cake. I thought I'd cheer up my poor girl, she said sweetly, expecting gratitude and attention. Instead, she found us sitting calmly at the table, the receipt placed between us. Thayer spoke first. We were talking about fraud and emotional abuse. Her smile cracked. She blamed me, then accused us of turning Maisie against her. But before she could finish, the doorbell rang. A process server handed her legal documents. Dax had filed a petition concerning her interference in his life, using the proof we'd sent. Cora left without another word. The next day, we gave Maisie her real cake privately and watched her eyes light up again. We changed the locks. We started therapy. And for the first time in years, our home felt peaceful. We didn't need revenge. We just needed freedom. Cora always acted like everything she did was for our own good. She spoke with a calm, confident voice that made people think she was wise, but I knew better. She liked control. She liked things to be done her way, and she hid that control behind gentle words and fake concern. For years, she commented on the way I cooked for my family. She would sniff the air and say my meals were full of chemicals, even though I cooked simple, homemade food. When I planned birthday parties or small celebrations, she would tell me they were too bright or too loud, as if joy itself was a problem. At first, I tried to ignore these things. I told myself she meant well, even when her tone said otherwise. But deep down, I knew she wanted to prove something. She wanted everyone to believe she was the one who knew best, not me, the mother of the child she claimed to love. The moment with the birthday cake showed me her true intentions more clearly than ever. She knew exactly what Maisie wanted. She had watched Maisie talk about that rainbow unicorn cake for months. She had even promised to get it. But instead, she brought that plain, tasteless sponge just to make sure her better choice took center stage. In that moment, it became obvious that this wasn't about health or sugar. It wasn't about protecting Maisie. It was about making a point. She wanted to show that her decisions mattered more than mine. She wanted Maisie to think that I chose silly, unnecessary things while she chose what was important. The look on her face said everything. When Maisie's smile faded and she tried not to cry, Cora didn't look sorry. She looked satisfied, like she had succeeded in proving some silent argument only she cared about. She didn't comfort Maisie or try to fix anything. She only stood there with that calm expression, as if waiting for me to admit she was right. As if waiting for Maisie to accept that Grandma knew best. That small, cruel moment drew a line I couldn't ignore anymore. She wasn't guiding or helping us. She was sending a message. A message to me that she could overrule me whenever she wanted. And a message to my daughter that her happiness didn't matter unless it matched Cora's idea of what was good. It was the first time I truly understood how far she was willing to go just to stay in control. As I held Maisie in my arms, trying to comfort her tears, I felt a mix of anger and sadness boiling inside me. Her small shoulders shook as she cried, and I could barely keep my own tears back. This was supposed to be her special day, and instead, it had turned into a moment of heartbreak, all because of Cora. I looked up and saw Thayer standing, his face tight and serious. He didn't say a word at first, just moved toward his mother. Through the window, I watched him guide her to the driveway. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I could see the way he pointed down the street, his finger trembling slightly. It wasn't a question, it was a command. Cora's eyes flicked to his, and I could almost see the shock there. She had never been spoken to like this before. She took a step back, blinked, and then stormed off down the street, her own face twisted with disbelief and anger. I stayed by Maisie, holding her tight, letting her cry out all the disappointment and confusion she felt. I could feel her tiny hands clinging to me, gripping my shirt like she wanted me to keep her safe from the unfairness of the world. I whispered soft words to her, telling her it wasn't her fault, that she was loved, that she would get everything she wanted in the end. But even as I tried to soothe her, my mind kept going back to Thayer. When he returned to the house, I noticed his hands shaking slightly. It wasn't just the tension of the argument, it was something more. I saw a line had been crossed, a weight lifted, and at the same time, a burden had settled on him. He leaned against the doorway for a moment, trying to steady himself, and then he spoke in a low, quiet voice that surprised me. "I'm done," he said. Just those 3 words, but they carried years of frustration, anger, and restraint. I looked at him in shock. It was the first time he had ever said anything like that to his mother. I had known him to be patient, to hold back, to try and mediate situations even when it hurt him inside. But today, the hurt and the injustice were too much. He had reached his limit. I felt a wave of relief wash over me, mixed with pride. Finally, someone was standing up for Maisie, for our family, for the boundaries that had been ignored for so long. Maisie peeked up at him through my arms, her tear-stained face lighting up slightly at the sight of her father's strength. I knew in that moment that things were changing. For the first time, Cora had faced a wall she couldn't push past, a father who would not be swayed or intimidated. And in that simple, trembling declaration, I realized we were no longer helpless. Thayer had drawn a line, and our family would be stronger because of it. The rest of the day, we stayed close together. Maisie eventually stopped crying, and we let her play and enjoy the small celebrations we could still give her. But inside, I knew this moment had shifted everything. Boundaries had been set, control had been challenged, and for the first time, I truly felt that we could protect our family from Cora's interference. After the party ended, I started cleaning up, picking up empty plates, cups, and decorations. I carried the trash bag outside, ready to throw it into the bin, when something shiny caught my eye. Among the crumpled napkins and empty boxes, there was a glossy bakery box. At first, I thought it was part of the sad beige cake Cora had brought, but when I looked closer, it was completely different. This box was from Sweet Enchantment, the bakery I had wanted to use all along for Maisie's rainbow unicorn cake. My heart skipped a beat. I carefully pulled it out, trying not to tear it, and noticed a small piece of paper tucked inside. It was a receipt. I unfolded it slowly, my hands trembling a little. The receipt said exactly what I feared. 1 custom rainbow unicorn cake, picked up and paid in cash by someone named C. Evans at 10 in the morning. My stomach dropped as I read it again and again. Cora had had the real cake the whole time. She had bought it herself and deliberately chosen to replace it with that sad, tasteless sponge she gave to Maisie. She had known exactly how disappointed Maisie would be. She had planned it. I sank down onto the curb, clutching the receipt, my mind racing. How could someone be so cruel? She had promised my daughter the special cake she had dreamed of for months, only to watch her cry when she received a fake one. And the worst part was knowing that she had held the real cake in her hands, just to enjoy our reaction. I thought of Maisie's little face, her tear-streaked cheeks, the way she had tried to hide her sadness. I felt anger rise inside me, hotter and heavier than anything I had felt before. This wasn't just meddling or interference. This was deliberate, calculated cruelty. Cora had used my daughter's happiness as a way to assert control, to make herself feel superior, and to show us all that she could dictate the day. I quickly went back inside, careful to hide the evidence until Thayer and I could figure out what to do. My mind was spinning, trying to plan the right way to handle this. It wasn't just about anger anymore. It was about making sure that Cora couldn't hurt Maisie or any of us again. Holding the receipt in my hand, I realized that the situation had shifted. The sad cake she gave Maisie was no longer just a disappointing gesture. It was proof of her true intentions. And now, for the first time, we had real evidence. It was our chance to turn the situation around, to protect our family, and to finally confront the control and manipulation that had haunted us for years. After discovering the receipt, I felt a mix of anger and disbelief. I needed someone to confirm that I wasn't imagining things, that Cora's actions weren't just a one-time cruel act. Thayer picked up his phone and called his brother, Dax. They hadn't spoken in months, ever since Cora had cut him off for defying her rules. I could hear the phone click into speaker mode, and Dax's voice came through immediately. "Let me guess," Dax said, his tone tired and knowing. "She ruined a milestone with some righteous, self-serving stunt?" Thayer's hand tightened around the phone, and I felt a flicker of hope. Dax continued, confirming exactly what I feared. He told us that Cora had done the same thing at his daughter's dance recital, deliberately ruining a special moment only to step in afterward as the one offering comfort. I listened, my hands shaking, as Dax explained how this had been a pattern for years. She didn't just interfere occasionally, she planned it. She would create hurt and disappointment, watch people struggle, and then arrive at the perfect moment to present herself as the hero. The relief she offered was never genuine. It was carefully timed to earn loyalty and gratitude. She had perfected this cycle over and over, and her family had been trapped in it for years. Hearing Dax confirm it made everything painfully clear. Cora's actions with Maisie were not about health or teaching lessons. They were about power. She had known exactly what my daughter wanted, had promised it, and then replaced it with something sad and tasteless just to prove a point. The real cake had been ready all along, but she had held it back so that she could control the narrative, be the one to fix the hurt she caused, and maintain her authority. Thayer and I exchanged a look. There was no longer any doubt about her intentions. I felt a mix of anger and relief. Anger because Maisie had been hurt unnecessarily, and relief because now we had someone else who understood exactly what we were facing. Dax had experienced the same pattern. We were not alone in this. Cora's manipulations were documented, consistent, and undeniable. I realized that this confirmation gave us power. It wasn't just evidence of cruelty. It was a map of how Cora operated, how she thought, and how she maintained control. We could use this knowledge to protect Maisie and ourselves. It wasn't about revenge yet, but about strategy, knowing when and how to confront her so that she couldn't continue her cycle of manipulation. By the end of the call, I felt more certain than ever that things would change. Cora had underestimated us. She had assumed her control was unchallenged, that no one would see through her actions. Now we saw clearly, and we were ready to take the steps needed to protect our family and make sure Maisie's happiness was never used against her again. After learning the truth about the cake and hearing Dax confirm Cora's pattern, Thayer and I sat together in the quiet living room, our minds racing. We didn't speak at first, just looked at each other, sharing the anger, frustration, and determination in silence. Finally, we made a decision without saying much aloud, a silent pact. We would not confront Cora yet. Not today. Not while emotions were high. Instead, we would act calm, normal, almost like nothing had happened, and wait for the right moment to show her the truth. We went back upstairs to Maisie. Her little face was still sad, her eyes puffy from crying. Thayer and I exchanged a glance, and then we put on our best smiles. We brought out ice cream, poured it into bowls, and let Maisie pick her favorite flavors. We sang her a small, happy song, not making a fuss about the missing cake, not even mentioning it. We laughed and played along with her games, pretending as if the party had gone perfectly. Inside, our hearts were heavy, our anger simmering, but our priority was Maisie's happiness. Every smile we gave her, every little cheer and hug, was an act of love, but also of quiet defiance. Cora had tried to break our spirits, to manipulate and control us, but we would not give her that satisfaction. We were gentle with Maisie, nurturing her joy, but firm in our own resolve. We knew exactly what we were doing. We also knew Cora. She would not accept the situation calmly. She would expect a scene, an argument, tears, or guilt. She would want to swoop in as the savior, the one to fix the broken family she imagined she had created. That was exactly why we needed patience. We wanted her to walk into the silence, to see that we were not broken, that we were united, and that her manipulations would no longer work. As the evening went on, we kept Maisie busy, letting her play with her toys, laugh, and enjoy small treats. Every so often, Thayer and I exchanged small, knowing glances. The plan was simple: stay calm, stay kind to Maisie, and wait. Wait for Cora to return. Wait for her to reveal herself. Wait for the moment when her control would be exposed. It wasn't about yelling, not about fighting. It was about quiet strength, about showing her that she could not bend our family anymore. We were ready to protect Maisie, ready to act together, and ready to reclaim the peace she had tried to destroy. By the end of the night, we had our quiet victory. Maisie smiled, played, and forgot for a moment the disappointment she had felt. And Thayer and I knew the next steps would be ours, carefully planned and powerful in their silence. Cora had no idea what was coming. About 4 hours after the party had ended, just as Thayer and I had expected, Cora returned. I had been keeping Maisie occupied, letting her play and enjoy the little treats we'd managed to give her. I had a feeling she would come back, trying to fix what she had ruined, and I wasn't wrong. This time, she didn't knock. She just opened the door and stepped in, carrying a large, beautifully decorated box. My stomach sank when I recognized the design. The rainbow unicorn cake. The one she had promised, the one Maisie had dreamed about for months, the one she had kept hidden from us. Cora's face wore a carefully crafted smile. Her voice was sweet, almost syrupy as she spoke. "I thought I should bring this by to cheer up my poor girl after all that drama," she said, emphasizing the word drama, as if the disappointment she had caused was our fault. She placed the cake on the table, arranging it carefully so that it looked perfect, like a gift from a caring, doting grandmother. I watched her closely, noting the little twitch of satisfaction at the corner of her lips. She expected a reaction. She expected Maisie to run to her, hug her, cry tears of joy, and thank her for the cake. She expected gratitude and admiration for being the hero, for stepping in to fix her own mistake. She had planned this moment, calculated it down to every detail, believing it would restore her image in our eyes and gain control over us again. Thayer and I stayed calm. We didn't rush to greet her. We didn't fawn over the cake. Instead, we waited, letting the silence fill the room. We had agreed on this approach. No sudden words, no confrontation yet, just a quiet strength that she couldn't understand. The air was still, almost heavy with anticipation. Cora shifted slightly, glancing between us, perhaps expecting us to gush, to fall for her act. Maisie, meanwhile, was upstairs, happily playing with her toys, unaware of the cake below. That was exactly what we wanted, to show Cora that her actions couldn't control us, that she didn't get the satisfaction she hoped for. She had thought the cake would make her the center of attention, the rescuer, the clever grandmother who could manipulate the family back into her world. But she was wrong. Her plan was unraveling, and she didn't even realize it yet. The control she thought she had was slipping, and the quiet patience Thayer and I had maintained was about to show her that the power she wielded over us for years was gone. Her hero moment would not happen. Instead, she would face the truth of what she had done, and the calm strength of a family united against manipulation. Cora's smile faltered slightly as she waited for the reaction she expected, unaware that her plan had already failed before it even began. Cora stood in the doorway, holding the beautiful rainbow unicorn cake, expecting smiles, tears of gratitude, maybe even hugs. But the house was quiet. Too quiet. She looked around, confused, as if the silence itself was a puzzle she couldn't solve. Thayer and I sat at the kitchen table, side by side. The table was clean, tidy, almost empty, except for one thing we had carefully placed between us: the receipt from Sweet Enchantment. Cora's eyes flicked to it, but she didn't seem to understand what it meant yet. She thought the cake she brought would make her the center of attention, the hero who fixed everything. She didn't expect calm. She didn't expect strategy. She didn't expect us. Upstairs, Maisie played with her new gifts, laughing and happy. She had no idea what drama was unfolding below her. That was the way it should be. She was supposed to enjoy her birthday, and for once, we made sure nothing could ruin it for her. Thayer leaned back slightly, his face steady, calm, almost unreadable. He spoke, his voice flat, but carrying a quiet authority that made Cora pause. "Hello, Mother," he said. His tone was polite, but there was no warmth. He didn't smile. He didn't move toward her. He just let the words hang in the air. Then he added, "We were just talking about fraud and emotional abuse." Cora froze. Her perfectly rehearsed words, her sweet, doting grandmother act had nowhere to go. She expected us to gush over the cake, to forgive, to thank her for fixing everything. Instead, she was met with calm accusation. She didn't know how to respond, and I watched as the first flicker of uncertainty crossed her face. I stayed silent, sitting beside Thayer, holding his hand briefly under the table, just enough for reassurance. We didn't need to say anything else. The receipt, the quiet strength, and the calm authority in Thayer's voice were enough. Cora had planned to control the situation, to manipulate us with her drama, but she hadn't counted on patience, strategy, or a united front. She shifted slightly, trying to force a smile, trying to figure out what she was supposed to do next. Her carefully planned performance, the cake, the timing, it all felt useless now. The power she had counted on, the control she thought she had over our reactions, had evaporated. For the first time in years, Cora faced us and realized she could not bend us. The quiet calm, the empty kitchen table, and the simple evidence of the receipt were enough to show her that her actions had consequences. Her plan to appear as the savior had failed before it even began. In that moment, the house remained calm and quiet, Maisie safe upstairs, and Thayer and I fully aware that the control she had long wielded was gone. This was our home, and for the first time, we were free from her manipulation. Thayer placed the receipt from Sweet Enchantment neatly on the table between us, along with the notes I had taken about Cora's past behavior. His hands were steady, his face calm but firm. As he explained everything step by step, how she had planned to ruin Maisie's birthday, how she had bought the Real cake but given a fake one, and how this was part of a long pattern of manipulation, I felt a mix of relief and anger. I knew we were no longer afraid of her, and that she could no longer hide what she had done. Cora's carefully constructed mask of sweetness began to crack. At first, she tried to bluster, waving her hands and speaking quickly, but it didn't work. Then she turned to me, her voice rising with anger, accusing me of turning Thayer against her. I stayed quiet, watching her, knowing that her words couldn't change the truth. Thayer calmly continued, showing her the evidence, letting the facts speak for themselves. I felt a quiet satisfaction, knowing we had finally exposed her for what she really was. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Cora froze, and I could see the confusion on her face. She walked to the door, still holding the cake, and opened it. Standing there was a process server, holding a thick envelope. She took it, trying to stay composed, but her hands shook slightly as she opened the document. I looked over her shoulder and saw the petition from the family court. Dax had filed it using the proof we had sent him. The case was about parental alienation, naming Cora as a harmful influence. I felt a rush of vindication. This was the first time she was facing real, tangible consequences. She had always believed she could control everything, that her manipulations would never catch up to her. But now, in our kitchen, the power she had relied on for years was gone. Her face went pale, and I could see the fear in her eyes. There was no acting now, no sweet, doting grandmother act that could cover the truth. She held that legal paper, a clear reminder that her actions had consequences she couldn't escape. I felt a wave of relief and pride. Finally, Maisie was safe, and Cora could no longer dictate how we lived or manipulated our family. I watched her silently. She didn't speak. She didn't argue. The weight of that document was heavier than any words she could use. I felt calm and strong beside Thayer, knowing that our patience and planning had worked. For the first time, I realized that our quiet determination had ensured that Cora's influence over our family was ending, and Maisie would be protected from her manipulations forever. It was more than just justice, it was peace. I knew we had finally taken the first real step toward reclaiming our home and our lives from her control. Cora left our house that day shaken and silent. I watched her go, holding Maisie close, and felt a weight lift from my shoulders. For years, her control, her interference, and her constant manipulations had filled our home with tension and fear. Now, for the first time, it felt like we could breathe. The next day, we gave Maisie her real cake. It was just the three of us, Thayer, Maisie, and me. We didn't need a party or decorations. Just being together, letting her finally enjoy the cake she had dreamed of, was enough. Her laughter filled the room, her eyes sparkled, and I felt a warmth I hadn't felt in a long time. This was how her birthday was meant to be, simple, happy, and full of love. Thayer and I decided to take further steps to protect our family. We started family therapy, knowing we needed support to rebuild trust and strengthen our bond. It wasn't about punishment or revenge. It was about learning to heal, to communicate, and to create a safe space for Maisie. Each session helped us grow closer, understand each other better, and reinforce the foundation of our family. We also changed the locks in our home. Cora would no longer be able to walk in unannounced or try to control us under the guise of care. It was a small step, but it made a big difference. I felt a sense of security that had been missing for years, a certainty that our home was truly ours now. The revenge we took was quiet. There was no yelling, no confrontation, no dramatic scenes. The real victory was in the removal of her power. She could no longer manipulate, intimidate, or hurt us. The emptiness left by her absence was replaced by calm, by stability, and by the knowledge that her influence was gone. The legal action, the evidence, and our planning ensured that her control was broken. Her karma was real, and it was quietly unfolding, leaving her powerless where she had once tried to dominate. We never received an apology. Cora never admitted her wrongdoing, and that was fine. We didn't need it. What mattered was that we had reclaimed our family, our home, and our peace. Watching Maisie play, laugh, and enjoy life without fear or sadness reminded me that the most important thing was the safety and happiness of the people I loved. In that quiet, ordinary day, surrounded by my family, I realized something important. True strength doesn't need to be loud. True justice doesn't always need confrontation. Sometimes the greatest victory is simply creating a home filled with love, trust, and peace, and knowing that nothing can take that away.